И все приветствую на канале RuTuBE, с вами Денис, это Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Нам... Сейчас. А где эта херня? Раз. Сейчас скажу, что я хотел сказать. У нас геймплей сейчас за багуту. За вот этого парня. Опа. Я понял. Короче, за вот этого парня у нас геймплей. Находимся мы хер знает где. Давай по карте посмотрим. В принципе. Так. Что за место вообще? Радборш. Мы, в принципе, недалеко и ушли. Мне тут надо, типа, со всеми познакомиться. Марк Йост. Ляхтич. Не можешь менять наряд багуты. Так, надо его все барахло сюда выложить. Вот так вот. Раз. Хорошие, в принципе, тоже. Повязки пускай будут.
Good health to you, sir. I'm Godwin, a friend of that lad you arrived with, Henry. We don't know each other.
Baron Vauquelin Brabant.
Ой, это опять эта херота.
The last of my line. I am a warrior, a traveler, a strategist, and also, à ma manière,
Еще балабол.
a poet.
My word. Isn't that exhausting?
Mais non! And I'm glad to meet a new friend.
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Baron. I knew right away we'd hit it off. How did you end up imprisoned in Malishov?
Ah, c'est une histoire compliquée. It was after I heroically led the defense of Gothenburg, and only lost it narrowly by an unfortunate turn of events.
That needs some explanation. What unfortunate turn of events?
Oh, misère. It is clear you have never been to war.
So, be so kind as to enlighten me.
When they broke through the defense, I ended up in captivity. It was only due to my acquaintances in a court that I escaped execution.
Oh. I thought it was Henry who saved your neck.
My neck was not at risk in Malishov. I may have still been a prisoner with my personal freedom restricted, but they never broke my spirit.
You say you're a poet. How about a verse or two to amuse us?
Jamais. Is poetry nothing but a farce to you? Is a poet a gesture for amusement? I think not. To recite, I require the proper mood. And besides, few here would understand me.
Where have you been on your travels? Have you seen the ocean?
But of course! I was born by the sea. If you are interested in my greatest journeys, then I have traveled with a merchant caravan all the way to the Ottoman Empire. And if you are interested in my greatest deed, then that was perhaps saving the life of the King of France.
And you wouldn't by any chance know the Pope, personally?
Which one do you mean? I spoke briefly with Boniface IX when I was sojourning in Rome. A pleasant fellow.
How come almost nobody here knows you?
I am operating, as they say. Incognito. My great benefit is my strong connection with the French court. There, everyone knows my name. Here in Bohemia, I'm still building my reputation, slowly, but surely.
Well, do you feel better now? You've stopped eating game?
My legs aren't nearly as swollen. Everything
Мне почти ни с кем не разрешают поговорить. Шляхтич, стражники. Анна. Шляхтич. Равин. Шмуэль. Янтачек. Шляхтич. Йон Лихтенштейн.
Something of the sort.
Plans they have are plenty. Each of them his own.
And what's the use of it? We'll just quarrel and everything will stay as it was before. You think a great war has ever been won without quarrel?
Так это имение Багуты получается, да? Мне кто-то сказал там. Не помню кто.
Godwin, you wouldn't be avoiding me. We didn't have much time for conversation on the way here. Let's rectify that.
With pleasure, sir. As it happens, there's something I'd like to ask you. What are you expecting from today's gathering, my lord?
Well, I have no great expectations. But, all going well, we may be able to establish some joint steps towards the future. As long as we proceed without prior agreement and mutual support, we will be very unlikely to achieve any progress.
I couldn't help but notice your son has a bit of a talent for getting into trouble.
To put it mildly, but not to do him an injustice, knowing young Lord Capon, he undoubtedly contributed to that more than a little. Although, if they didn't pull each other out of trouble, God knows where they'd be now.
Wise words. Still, Henry's come a long way on a thorny path. I trust you're rightfully proud of him.
You know, I am. And Martin would also be glad, even though Henry chose a different path than he.
May God grant him eternal rest. Where did you leave Sir Divish? Surely he's not too old to miss out on such an event.
Haven't you heard? Lady Stephanie is with child. No one even imagined Divish would produce an heir at his age.
As they say, it doesn't matter who kneaded the dough, as long as there's a pie in the oven.
Godwin.
Well, it could be a miracle. Praise the Lord! May I have a word with you, sir?
You? Anytime. With you, at least, there's some sensible conversation. Unlike this pack of conceited upstarts.
Have you got something against the Kuttenberg nobles?
Their forefathers lived up to their ears in dung. But thanks to the royal mines, they were born with silver spoons up their asses. And they think that can turn their blood blue.
But surely they're not all like that. And they are our allies.
Allies or not, someone ought to show them their place.
Young Lord Capon is finally free again. Let's hope he'll take better care of himself now.
He got a harsh lesson. But at least he might remember to lay off that tomfoolery of his for a while. But if not, war will make a man of him soon enough.
Do you think there's really going to be a war? I mean a proper one, not just sitting around and talking about it.
I sincerely hope so. Whoever sits around risks nothing. It's time to get off our asses and take action.
What do you think about Jobst?
Are you testing me? Jobst called this assembly and he wants things to turn out well. We have to trust him.
To turn out well for whose benefit, though? Some are up to their elbows in silver and blood, so others can live in freedom.
Better make sure you're among the latter, then. And in the meanwhile, help the former to keep their losses to a minimum.
Jesus Christ be...
Я сейчас хожу, брожу просто по локациям, ну, вдруг что-то будет интересненькое такое, знаешь.
Such rare guests. One wouldn't expect to find among Christians representatives of your community. I'm Godwin. My greetings to you.
Peace be with you. Neither would one expect a priest here. And yet...
How do you know I'm a priest?
It's not difficult to tell. After all, we have much in common. And we are both a little on unfamiliar ground here. I'm Yehuda, leader of the rabbinical court in the sacred community of Gutenberg. And this is Samuel, my aide.
Who would rather not be here at all. Why did we have to come here, Sadie? Can you not see everyone is staring at us?
Because we all need to help each other in this time of need. And why would they not stare when you are frowning so?
Are you here to arrange some trade?
We have more serious matters to attend to here than gaining a few groschen. The situation in the town and the kingdom is unsustainable. The whole land is on the brink of destruction. You have men and weapons. We have the means to sustain them.
Why are you telling this to a Koimer? You wanted to deliver what we brought to the Margrave and quickly leave.
Everything in good time, Samuel. We have just arrived, after all.
Did you come to lend money to the lords?
Not to lend, but to give. Help given to the needy is repaid only by God.
You don't even know if you can trust them. With that money, we could have paid mercenaries ourselves.
You remind me of my young friend Henry. He's a bit of a hothead too.
Henry? That messenger of Radzik Copula?
You know each other. You're both around the same age.
That would be him. We did not get off to a very good start.
Чего ответите?
I reckon the two of you would hit it off. He's reliable and has his heart in the right place. For a young stripling, he's been through plenty. It's not so long since his parents were killed in Skalitz. He was supposed to become a blacksmith, and instead, he's roaming the world, risking his neck at every turn.
Wait, a blacksmith, you say? From Skalitz?
Aye, that's right. Did you know anyone there?
I knew of someone. A blacksmith by the name of Martin.
My daughter knew him most, and that is why Samuel is in this world. For our numerous sins.
Maybe he was my father, but he certainly didn't act like one. Ma raised me on her own.
And that was all for the best.
Why? He should have taken care of me, but instead he fathered another bastard.
Don't make hasty judgments. As far as I know, Martin didn't have any other children. At least, none of his own. He took in Henry and raised him as his own on the orders of the Lord of Skalitz, Sir Radzik Kobula, Henry's real father.
I don't care if he took care of 20 other Mamsas.
That boy's blood father denied him, just like yours did to you.
A person can't choose their parents. And Henry only found out about it recently.
Enough. I'd rather have a drink. Will you have one too, Zayde?
For that, there will be more suitable times.
Good health.
L'chaim.
Dear friends and allies, in these troublesome times, you all know why we're here. The question remains, what to do next? Sigismund is facing troubles in Hungary, and here too, he is up against resistance. He's a capable strategist, but a poor diplomat. Mark my words. If we wait him out until winter, he will leave of his own accord.
By winter, he'll have torched all our fortresses and carried off everything that we possess.
Are we seriously gonna wait and cower in a corner? Or are we gonna drive them out in shame? A few well-planned raids and we could have him in our fists!
At what price? Have you got men to spare? Has any of you got men and money to spare?
We don't have men out there.
Yes, we do.
We do not.
Jobst is right. That whole sun won't fall easily.
Only we can't wait.
Are we to get ourselves killed?
Or end with nothing?
I'm not going to die.
Friends, we'll get nowhere like this. Let's adjourn ourselves and try to think it through.
Well, that went just as expected. Good health.
And to yours. Could it have gone any other way when there's so many of us here?
I would have expected a bit more sense from Jobst, of all people. He made an amateur's mistake. But it's hard to be angry with him when he's trying to ingratiate himself with everyone. By the way, I'm John of Liechtenstein. And you must be Godwin, the son of...
That's not a thing I've ever boasted of. How do you know that?
I have my sources. From what I've heard about you, I'd judge you could be quite useful to me at today's gathering.
Is that so?
Indeed. And that's why I'd like to ask something of you.
It depends what it's all about.
A little delicate diplomacy. I expect we can agree that Jobst's plan has certain shortcomings.
That's a weak word.
And the way it stands at the moment, he'll never get the support of the council. But I have an idea how to change that.
Well, I'm curious how you hope to shut Zizka up and satisfy the ones who want peace.
We'll sit and wait quietly until Sigismund withdraws of his own volition, as Jobst proposes, but we'll be waiting in the military camp of our huge new army.
If Sigismund decides to mount an attack on the camp, it'd be a massacre.
Ah, but it won't. Sigismund's army is demoralized and weakened. And besides, he's running out of resources. He's able to tackle fortresses that aren't able to defend themselves, but he won't engage an equal force on the battlefield.
But he can't retreat either. That would be a disgrace.
And that's exactly why we'll wait until he's called back to Hungary by events there. For the plan to work, we need allies, their money and their determination. We've already set the ground for it. We just need negotiators who will push the right people in the right direction.
Are you saying you set everything in motion even before Jobst?
More like in parallel, but without his knowledge. If we find support and make it look like the whole thing was his idea, we'll all win.
You've got an interesting way of approaching things.
You're certainly not the first to tell me that. I take it as a compliment.
Why are you doing all this anyway?
Because I want to put a stop to the senseless deaths. And also because I'm happier with Wenceslas on the Bohemian throne.
I'll help you. What exactly should I do?
I'll give you 3 names. Botchek of Kunstadt, Haman Alder, and Anna of Waldstein. If you can get those 3 on our side, we've won the day. Meanwhile, I'll take care of Jobst.
What if it doesn't work?
I refuse to even consider that outcome. Because it would mean slow, but certain defeat for all of us.
Why me, of all people?
Because you've got a head on your shoulders. You know how to talk, and you're not just out for your own good. You and your friend Henry are similar in that respect. That's why I know I can count on you both. There aren't many like you two left.
Tell me a bit more about those people, so I know who I'm dealing with.
Certainly. Who do you want to start with?
Botchek of Kunststadt. I know the name, but I can't quite place him.
That's just the thing. He's got massive estates, great influence, but he holds back. He doesn't play the big game, because he doesn't like to take risks. He always goes for the sure thing. But once he's made his mind up, not even a pair of oxen will hold him back.
Alder the Alderman. Wasn't he a Kuttenberg councillor?
He still is. The only one who retained his position after the city was taken. Only he's here, instead of cozying up with Sigismund in Kuttenberg. So his days in the council are numbered. But he'll continue to have a strong influence on the guilds and the rich burghers. And that's why we need him.
Anna of Waldstein. The widow of that rich mine owner. What was his name?
Wenzel Bartosz. And I'm not surprised you forgot.
I was quite surprised to see her here. Assemblies like this are more of a...
A male affair? So far, Godwin, so far. Anna is holding back and behaving like an exemplary young widow. But don't trust appearances. She's got claws, she knows how to do her sums, and she certainly has no love lost for Sigismund.
And what use can she be to us? Apart from her late husband's money, of course.
She's as sharp as they come when it comes to trade. And she knows a thing or two about diplomacy. There are wicked tongues that claim Bartosz acquired most of his wealth thanks to her. And that it was thanks to her that he died, too.
I'll get on it then.
I wish us both luck. Before the day is over, the die will be cast.
Success to our plans.
Багути вообще не повредит лишнее это. Ничего лишнее не повредит.
God be with you, noble lady. There's something I'd like to ask of you.
God be with you. What would that be?
Your diplomatic support. And your money.
No beating around the bush, eh? I like that. But what do you want my money for?
Margrave Job's plan has some gaps, milady. We need to gather enough resources to...
To muster an army that Margrave can't afford on his own?
Christ. Be praised. You're astute.
I should say so. All sorts of people have their eyes on my money, and divining their intentions is a necessity. Although, between the two of us, it isn't hard to figure out what Liechtenstein is after.
Hit the nail on the head again, Mom. You're well informed.
I am rarely mistaken.
I'd say you have a better nose for people than most of this crowd.
Not only for people, but also for good food and wine. And beneficial deals.
Then you're in the right place. This occasion provides all of those things.
The wine here is average. The cooks lack imagination. And I have yet to hear
Ух,
any
бля.
interesting offers. So, to the point. What is it that Liechtenstein wants from me?
Nothing more than support and resources for an army to parley more effectively with Sigismund.
Nothing more? I'd say that's plenty. And why ask me for help? Why should I, of all people, take the risk?
It's not only your money we're interested in. You're well able to negotiate and trade. And if you were to take part in our plan...
Then I'd be helpful to you on two fronts. If you want me to support you, you must give me a good reason. Perhaps a favor in return.
Do you have something in particular in mind?
Well, one of the guests here has something that shouldn't get into the wrong hands.
Who's that?
Harman Alder. Now, if you were to switch these papers for the ones he brought with him, I would support your proposal.
And the papers I'm supposed to plant on Alder?
Just insignificant documents. If the incriminating ones disappeared without a trace, it would arouse suspicion.
Have you fallen out with the town councillor?
No. Alder is innocent in the matter. My relatives from the House of Bartosz are behind it all. They're disappointed that I dared outlive my husband, and the fact that I'm handling his estates makes their hair stand on end.
And these papers I'm supposed to switch, what do they concern?
My relatives somehow dug up some trade contracts between myself and certain undesirable parties.
You were dealing with the enemy.
They were not the enemy at the time. My conscience is clear, but I'll rest easier when those papers are in my hands.
All right, I'll help you. Or at least I'll give it a try.
Alder will surely have the papers in his saddlebags, which he left in the shed on the outer courtyard. Bring them to me, and put these there instead. But watch yourself. Odorim's groom has eyes everywhere.
Сейчас принесу.
A nightingale.
What brings you here?
Big enough for that bastard to raise
I've got those papers from Alder for you.
Quiet! You don't have to announce it to everyone.
Lady, with all the clamor going on here, I can hardly hear my own thoughts. Here they are.
You're more capable than I expected. Thanks for the help.
You're welcome. And now you're part of the bargain.
As agreed. I will support Liechtenstein's proposal with both words and money.
Thank you, noble lady. God will...
Yes, quite. But let's drink to our bargain, Godwin.
How could I refuse a toast with such a fine lady? To your health, Lady Anna.
And to the success of our efforts.
I'll tell you, nobody has the likes of these.
Not even Bocek?
Not even Bocek. And he's a great lord.
That's... I'd like to check your horses out. See if they're as good as you say.
Pah, even better. But you won't believe it until you see for yourself.
And you might not believe your eyes when you do see them. Well, we have a new guest.
I wanted to...
You wanted to apologize for crashing into my home without a by your leave. Or to harass my guests some more?
I want to have a word with Older.
Well, I'm having a word with you.
I'll talk to you later, Father. This is important.
You're in my home, so you'll talk to me first. What is it you want?
Is that your...
Unfortunately. Speak up, then. What are you doing here?
We'll talk later and in private. Right now, we have more important things to attend to.
Don't try my patience.
Why so strict, Martin?
20 years ago, he was nothing but a cheeky brat, only interested in wenches and booze. I got him a place at the Archbishopric to have some sense beaten into his head. Only it wasn't long before they kicked him out. And then I find out he's settled in some backwater parish in Sassau. But he took his boozing and whoring along with him, lost everything, and then came creeping home again. Huh?
Try saying it again a little louder. They might not have heard you in the outer courtyard.
You have the impertinence to show me your face after the way you disgraced our whole family?
You're exaggerating, like you've always done.
Me? Exaggerating? You're the one who turned my home into a house of ill repute. Your whores wandering around as if they owned the place.
Oh, actually, anything fun was strictly banned under your roof. But maybe you ought to try it yourself sometime. Then maybe you wouldn't be such a bitter old grouch.
You're dishonoring your host.
I can't dishonor someone who has no honor. If you had any, you'd be...
That's enough.
Christopher.
You won't get away with those insults. I challenge you to a duel.
We've never met, and we have no cause to be enemies. Take back your challenge, and we'll sort things out peacefully.
You've got no other option. You insulted Father's honor.
Gentlemen, surely there's no need for violence. I can have a word in private with Lord Odorin, the second, as he desires, and then...
Out of the question. This uncouth lout needs a lesson, and he's got plenty to learn from Christopher. By God's grace, I have at least one son I can be proud of.
You want satisfaction? You'll get nothing but shame, as always. Suit yourself, then. We'll fight. Come to the outer courtyard, but quietly. We don't have to put on a show for the crowd.
After you.
Well, that's that. Now, where were we?
Shouldn't we rather...
No, Christopher will sort it out, you'll see.
Make room for us. We'll just settle a very private matter. It's an honorable duel, man against man. Stay back.
Stand firm.
Enough!
Otherwise, the first
That will
strike
do.
will put you on your arse!
My God. Where did you learn to wield a sword like that? Father always said you were a good-for-nothing boozer. But you could teach sword fighting in a school.
Oh, you know how it is. The countryside is tough. It's dog eat dog. And you ought to know yourself. Not all the faults that Father sees are real.
Aye. Well, I apologize for going off like that. I had to, so that...
So Father would be satisfied. I know. Only he'll never be satisfied. The sooner you realize that, the better.
I thought he was the way he was because his first son let him down. And he hoped at least his second would become something.
Not at all. I remember him the same since I was a nipper. When I was 6 years old, I fell off a horse and broke my leg. He wouldn't talk to me for a week because I'd let him down.
The first time he took me hunting, he let me starve for 3 days until I was able to shoot my first hare.
Only 3 days? He got soft.
I always wondered who you were. There was never much talk about you at home.
Look, I really did fuck up everything I could. I brawled and boozed until they threw me out of my own parish. But now, I have a chance to put things to rights a little.
And that's why you want to talk to Alder?
I've got to get him on our side and to cooperate with us.
Aren't we all on the same side?
Maybe everyone's saying that. But it's time to put it into action.
After your encounter with Father, it won't be easy to get to Alder. Actually, I don't think you should even attempt it. Unless you want to anger Father even more.
What else can I do, though?
I'll talk to him myself. He'll hear me out for sure. But you'll have to trust me. And tell me what it's all about.
Do I have any choice?
If it's really that important, you don't.
All right, then. You've heard Yob's plan, right? It's a nice idea, but we can't wait around without an army to back us up.
Only no one's going to pay for one, because that would be an outright admission of rebelling against Sigismund.
Alder's got some clout with the councillors and burghers who are loyal to Sigismund. If he agrees, they'll follow.
I expect Alder's not the only one you're after.
You got that right.
Leave Alder to me. The plan sounds sensible, and he's no fool.
I don't know how to thank you.
You can drag me to a tavern sometime. Pa doesn't need to know about it.
You're starting to sound like a brother.
How are you getting on?
Aside from the happy family reunion,
I'd almost forgotten about that little detail.
Father,
keep it up. Just don't overdo it with the wine.
Sir Kunzlan, I haven't yet had the pleasure.
You're Godwin, aren't you? I've heard about you from Martin.
Oh dear.
Have no fear. I know Martin well, and I know he's prone to exaggeration. Anything I can do for you?
Will you support Margrave Yob's plan?
That depends on what it is. If he decides to just wait, then no. I can't take that risk any longer.
Do you think we should look for help somewhere else?
I came here for one reason alone. To hear a plan of attack against Sigismund. If Jobst doesn't lay one out before me, I'll try and find someone more courageous.
I expect you know Lady Anna of Waldstein well.
Why wouldn't I? She's joined at the hip with my daughter Rosa.
I hope she doesn't feel unwelcome here. I've heard she's a bit of a thorn in the side for some of the gents here.
To her own relatives, certainly. But I'll tell you one thing. I knew her husband, Wenzel, and he married her out of love. And I cared for him devotedly till the day he died. And it wasn't a quick death.
So it's not true what they say? That his demise was convenient for her?
Vile slander. People just can't forgive her for coming into a fortune as a young widow.
What do you think of the rabbi's offer? The Kuttenberg Jewish community is large, and their support could change everything.
Or nothing. To be honest, I've no idea what to expect of the rabbi's offer.
He said he was interested in an alliance, though, didn't he?
Aye, but still he must be aware that whatever happens, it won't change the lot of his people.
So you don't trust him?
And isn't it natural? It's not just faith in the walls of their quarter that separates us. They live in our city, but they're more foreign than the Germans or the Hungarians. God be with you.
Mind where you're going.
Your Grace, may I disturb you for a moment?
Certainly.
Godwin, I came with the lords from Ratai.
Ah, now I remember. Forgive me, there are many guests, and I only have one head.
Lord Liechtenstein asked me for help, in our collective interest. But if you'll allow me, sir, I'd like to ask you a few questions, so I'm clear about what I can do to help.
Indeed. And what would you like to know?
Your plan, if I may be so bold, has a few gaping holes. Sigismund may attack anywhere and any time, and we have no way to defend ourselves. You want to wait, fine. But you should at least give some assurance to the lords that they'll live to see it through.
You amuse me, Godwin. A parish priest teaching the Margrave of Moravia about politics. I know you mean well, but try to look at it with cold reasoning.
I'd reason better with an army at my back.
Do you realize how much such an army costs? The gentlemen here have trouble agreeing about much lesser sums.
And if a way could be found, and the means...
Before that happens, Sigismund will take his shoes off and head off to Rome barefoot.
Do you still think the lords will agree at the end of the day? I'm beginning to lose hope.
That's the way of politics. Some are persuaded by silver, some by a well-chosen word. Others are convinced by tempting promises.
And if none of that does the trick?
Such cases usually end in quarrels between former allies, while the enemy is laughing up his sleeve.
John of Liechtenstein is acting in your interest, isn't he?
That was the original agreement. And on the outside, it still looks that way, I trust.
I understood that he was on our side.
Yes, he is. Only, he is slowly starting to act more and more on his own initiative.
Although, that doesn't have to be a bad thing, does it?
He still lacks the experience to be capable of evaluating some situations. But he is persuasive, and easily wins people to his side. Unfortunately.
But it was you who sent him to Kuttenberg, wasn't it?
True. But I certainly never told him to hole up in the Jewish quarter and pursue his own private plans there. And by doing so, he put both himself and our common interests in jeopardy.
I wasn't expecting to meet the rabbi of Kuttenberg here.
Really? Half of Kuttenberg has accumulated debts with usurers that they cannot repay, or even do not intend to. The rabbi knows his people are under threat, and that Sigismund will not protect them if something should befall, similar to what happened in Prague.
So they naturally took a stance against Sigismund.
What's more, if Wenceslas regains the throne, they can expect him to reward them.
On whose side do the wealthy burghers stand?
From the entire elite of Kuttenberg. Only Kunzelin Rutard and Haman Alder have come here. Not that I'm surprised. The king keeps a close eye on them through the city council, seeking the slightest pretext to confiscate their wealth.
But if Rutard and Alder can be persuaded...
We don't need to convince Rutard. And Martin is already working on Alder. But he might be pushing a little hard.
Everything all right? You look a bit out of sorts.
I can't wait for it to end so we can get out of here.
Would you tell me something about your community? I haven't found out much so far.
What can I tell you? It was never exactly glorious. And now especially, everyone is quaking that what is still left to us will be taken away.
Surely it won't be that bad.
There are many fools who would rather take out their gall on us and start to fight among themselves. In times of uncertainty, it is always the sons of Israel who are the first to be stricken.
I reckon you'd have to be pretty brave to come and mingle with the Kuttenberg lords.
Or pretty pissed off.
Or that.
We will leave as soon as we can. Anyway, all of these worthy gentlemen would be relieved to be out of sight.
А можно мне озвучку поставить? Другую? Это ж...
Burgers.
You seem a bit out of sorts. Anything wrong?
Oh, these grand aristocratic assemblies are nothing for me. I'd be happier if they just told me in the morning how it all went and what my boys have to do next.
But then you'd miss all the grub and the booze. And the gossip.
Oh, and have you heard anything interesting here?
It seems Liechtenstein's looking for allies. For his own ends.
And how's he gonna do it? Didn't you see them all fighting tooth and nail here just a while ago?
Well, different approaches work with different people.
The only approach that'll work with Sigismund is open resistance. Maybe on the field of battle?
Let's hope young Lord Capon manages to stay free for a while longer. Ever since leaving Ratai, he's gone from one pile of trouble to another.
That's one thing you can always count on him for. I'll gladly wager with you he'll end up in some other shit by evening.
God forbid. Henry's not here now to pull him out of it.
In that case, it'll be up to you. I'm sure you wouldn't leave him to disgrace himself in front of Hanush.
A lot of people think the wealthy burghers will stick with Sigismund, whether out of fear or convenience.
Now that's to be expected. As long as Sigismund has the city council under his thumb, no one will rock the boat.
Well, at least there's a few individuals there, like RUTUBE.
Sigismund confiscated his castle and half his estates. That'd be enough to make a man mad. Not to mention that his son was killed in the siege of the city.
God bless, good sir. God bless.
Sir Bocek, I need to speak with you for a moment.
A man hardly puts his cup to his lips and someone comes along to put a flea in his ear. Yobs comes up with a plan as full of holes as a beggar's shoes, and now you're all jostling to win me over for him.
On the contrary, I've come here with an idea how to improve it.
Does that improvement include a few thousand men-at-arms? If not, you can go to the devil with it.
A few thousand men-at-arms as a convincing argument. And 100 horsemen on top. Only in order to get them, we need coin.
You've got my attention, but not my money yet.
Don't worry, it's not just your money I want to draw on. Believe it or not, we've gained other patrons for our cause too.
Really? Name at least one of those lunatics, then.
Anna of Volstein, for instance.
Truly? Well, let's see about it, then.
I wouldn't mention the word lunatic.
All right, let's discuss it, candidly. I have a lot of property, lots of subjects to look after, and along with that, the Lord blessed me with a large family. I can't risk it all in a conflict with Sigismund.
So you need guarantees that you won't be left standing in the cold if you openly oppose Sigismund?
My guarantee is called Yitka. She's my niece. If I succeeded in marrying her off to another strong house, I'll have the certainty that I won't be left alone.
Maybe it's enough to find a suitable groom among the allies.
Perhaps someone of suitable standing who Yitka would also gladly accept. I don't want her to be unhappy.
Where's that beer? Cheers!
I believe Liechtenstein is single.
And an uncertain party. Besides, he's inconvenient for Sigismund. Yitka could end up being a pawn to blackmail both of us.
I I'd be honored to oblige. I'm in my prime.
Forget about it. Even if by some miracle you could manage to sire children, you'd die before you could raise them.
The truth doesn't offend, my lord. How about young Lord Capon?
He's a youngster still.
Maybe you're right. I reckon he's not ready for marriage yet.
No man of any age ever is. But it's especially true for young rascals like that one. On the other hand, the lords of Lipa have a good reputation, and Hanush can always be relied on despite his temper. Maybe it's not such a bad idea.
I'll convey your offer to Lord Capon. If he agrees, we can celebrate our lives.
I don't care what the young lord thinks. Hanush is the one to decide. If he agrees, I'll be happy to support your plan.
Pushing a friend to tie the knot to save the kingdom. Things have come to a pretty pass.
The kingdom will not forget his sacrifice. Now stop dilly-dallying and go and tell Hanush.
Прикольно, а мне может пачка сначала спросить, действительно. Где этот дебил, кстати?
I've got some good news and some bad news for you.
The bad news is there's hardly any females in this whole damned place. There's some old bat standing there with two young girls, but she watches over them like a mother hen. So at least tell me the good news.
You're going to get married.
Good one. Is she at least pretty?
I don't know. I've never seen her.
You're really a barrel of laughs, Godwin. Wait till Hanush hears this. Now, enough nonsense. Let's have a drink to your health and my freedom.
I'd better slow down, or I won't live to see the morning.
Ah, what can one expect from a man of the cloth?
Sir, I don't believe I've had the honor.
Nor I, until now. I am Sir Conrad, Lord of Vechta. And you are the heir to the Lord of Rabosh, are you not?
Used to be. My father somewhat disowned me some time ago.
And I used to be the Royal Mint Master, until the King decided to replace me.
Are you going to support the Margrave's proposal?
I haven't quite decided yet. It's true that displeasure against the King is noticeably growing in Kuttenberg, but if our rebellion were to come face to face with Sigismund's army, I'd be risking my future, if not my life.
Do you think you might get your position as Mint Master back again?
I doubt it. Half the town hates Vavak, but no one would even think of saying a word against him. And he knows that his security stands and falls with his function, so he clings to it tooth and nail.
We've got quite a bit in common, wouldn't you say?
More than you think. If my memory doesn't deceive me, you serve as a parish priest. So I recollect, at least, from my recent discussions with Martin.
Served. That's in the past.
Even so. Before King Wenceslas appointed me his mint master, I was a priest. I was even being groomed to become a bishop.
And now look at us. We have cast off our robes and merrily hatched plots against Sigismund.
There's no point in waiting for divine intervention. On the contrary, the current state of affairs demands quite a secular approach.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
А где... где дочка-то его? Наверное, во дворе тут где-то шляется. Служанка. Хелена.
quite unusual to see him cornered like this.
Sir Hanush, I bring happy tidings.
You do? Let's hear it then.
Young Lord Capon is going to get married.
If he's got some impoverished noble's daughter pregnant, I'll have his hide. I'm not going to support some bastard.
You misunderstood my meaning. I was the one who arranged the betrothal. I mean, with your blessing.
You arranged a marriage for my ward? Just like that? With who?
With the niece of Sir Butchek, Lord of Kunstadt. Her name's Yitka.
Butchek of Kunstadt? The Butchek of Kunstadt? Godwin, you conniving old bastard.
Oh, fuck.
I don't believe it. So, young Hans is to marry Kunstadt's daughter?
Niece.
If you're serious, I'll make sure that you get the Rattay parish.
Or you could make me the abbot of Sassa. Or what about a bishopric?
Forget it. Soon I'll be paying for a wedding. Not a word to Hans. I want to tell him myself. But let's drink to it, shall we?
Cheers!
Cheers to you, and to your parlaying skills.
Все так просто. Ладно.
Exactly why we must...
Sir Butchek, your niece Yitka can start preparing for her wedding.
So Hanush agreed, without reservations.
Indeed.
Then I will fulfill my end of the bargain without reservation.
Thank you, Lord of Kunstadt.
Enough formality. We'll have a drink. What do you say?
Cheers to the beautiful Lady Yitka and the unhappy Lord Capon.
Here's to a good bargain.
Порешали все, суки. Да.
Hold up.
Че, ребят, на этом завершим, начнем новую серию. Ну, как обычно, в общем, подписываемся, ставим лайки. Ну, я вас за это поблагодарю. Спасибо. Все, пока.